Hello, Daryl.
Hey Bart, how you doing today?
How's it going? Just to give you guys a little bit of background, and I'm sure we'll put a link to it in the description when this one goes up on YouTube. Daryl and I had a conversation, what? Right after the World Series, maybe this past
Yeah,
summer? Yeah, right after the World Series, as if I remember it. And this was back when, for whatever reason, Boston Harbor Encore decided that it would be in their best interest to take away free drinks at the poker room. This was after charging whatever it is, 10% up to $10 in rake. And that did not go over well in the room, Daryl. And very shortly after we had that conversation, they actually brought free drinks back, right?
they did.
Yeah.
I heard from a floor or two that they might have heard our conversation on here. So
Yeah. And for some reason, the guy's name escapes me, but the guy that used to be the head of the room during right before COVID, and then he went out and I think he opened Resorts World's poker room. People know who I'm talking about if you're familiar with that. He actually contacted me. I wanted to see if he wanted to come on the show, but he didn't, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's a different setup there now. Before I moved on, we had some, people that had some influence in the poker department, and the higher ups would listen to me. This is that guy, and he had some influence like at corporate. And then when he sort of moved on, the people that run poker now don't have much influence at all. And he just wanted to point out that, these decisions aren't necessarily made. I mean, sometimes the people in poker might think that they're bad decisions too, but they just don't have a say in it. And that drink thing was really like somebody who knew nothing about poker just looking at probably the balance sheet and being like, well, how much can we cut here to get profit? And really not taking into account how it would adversely affect the room. But of course, you're calling about something different, because when I went in there this past Tuesday, the room was kind of changed around a little bit.
yeah, so they've completely redone the setup. They've put slot machines in the center of the second floor where the poker tables used to be, and have moved the poker tables into a room that used to be like a conference room where you went to pick up free gifts and items and things like that. And then there's also another small area of poker tables next to the bathrooms on the second floor near the north elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So there's about 7 tables there.
Yeah.
And the new setup is noisier and more disruptive than even the center of the room tables were.
Okay.
Not only is it distracting for players and hard to concentrate, especially when you're really close to the door. And I mean, the room next to the bathroom is, you can't hear anything in there. But I've heard floors complain, that they're having a hard time on the microphones and the walkie-talkies, being able to hear instructions coming from, their command post. I know I've missed out on tables because I can't even hear over the intercom, if I've been called, and I might miss the text message on Poker Atlas. So that's been really tough.
Because the podium was set up for the intercom to be in the other area, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be very, very frustrating, because the setup I didn't really catch this because, like I said, I played at, Tuesday at 10 in the morning, so the room wasn't anywhere near full. But I will say that there's still a limited number of tables, and when it gets busy, you can be waiting for hours. So it would be really fucking annoying if you couldn't hear your name get called and it somehow got passed over, right?
Absolutely. Or let's say you're waiting at 1-3 and you want to get into a good 2-5 or 5-10 and you miss the same thing and you miss it. It's very, very frustrating. And then on top of the noise complaint, I mean, the TVs are really small. You can barely see. You're straining your eyes to watch a football game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people who want a sports bet, or who, might have a lot of action, who are just coming to play poker and pass the time. And they might not want to sit in an environment like that. And I would say just the environment itself, the comment about the playing outside that somebody earlier made is really how it feels. How far are they going to squeeze us until, they say they're moving across the street, but how far are they going to squeeze us over here while we're paying $10, up to 10, 10% up to $10. And while people are paying $13 every half an hour.
I mean, listen, and it's even more pronounced now as more rooms have opened, or maybe these rooms were open the last time we talked, Daryl, but it seems like they've sort of picked up a little bit. I'm talking about the New Hampshire rooms that, because you got Twin River too. So if you live on the South Shore, Twin River is sort of back, and now they're taking in call-ins out of Providence. And then you got MGM Springfield. But if you live north, you can always drive to New Hampshire. You got to vote with your feet. I mean, there's really, and it's unfortunate, I will say now, that this is not something where they can probably revert back, right? I mean, I saw those slot machines took over. It's not like, oh, I don't know, maybe it is easy for them to move them. I would just think that this is more of a permanent move now.
This move is definitely permanent, but you can do something simple like put glass doors where the openings are. I mean, something as simple as that could absolutely muffle the sound and still have a welcoming room where you can see inside. And it would, I know that there have been some 5'10" and 10'25" players who have, been able to make their voice heard to some higher ups. And what I've heard is, some of the poker people are receptive to some of these changes, but how quickly these things happen, it's really hard to say.
So you think that they should do something about the noise? That's your main complaint. Now, obviously when besides them really, really kind of raking you over the coals with the rake, coming back and just being at so much higher before, they still haven't really solved the whole chip and cash out situation over there either, right?
Yeah, so that's another huge issue.
Now that would just drive me nuts if I was there on a weekend night.
I mean, and they're asking, right now it's a player-to-player economy, and like if big time players don't have chips, it's like, where are we going to get chips from? Even at the 2-5 level, because they're raking so much, all the $5 chips are off the table, especially late at night. And it's like, just slows the game down where we're constantly making change, and people don't want to go get more red chips. It's a very frustrating and tough environment to play in right now.
And I think we had discussed before too, the other issue with this, I think we brought it up, was that like you don't get the occasional whale that might want to come blast off in a PLO game because he can't get chips, because they don't even sell chips. Here's the thing about this, just to refresh everybody. Not only is the $10 10% rake and all this other bullshit, and they were doing high hands promotions where they were taking like an extra $3 in my 2-5 game, but you can't buy chips, at least when I was there, that were more than $100 up at the poker cage. It's not even a poker cage. It's like, well, it is a cage, but it's next to the podium. So you can't, like, I was like, oh, can you give me like $1,000 chip or a $500 chip? No. But when you go and cash out, you can't cash out up there. Now, what I had been told, though, is that they had opened it to cash outs on the weekend nights sometimes. Is that not true?
I don't believe so.
Because I had heard that, so I'm not 100% sure about that. But for the most part, at least outside of maybe the top peak hours, maybe they did this and then they took it away, you have to walk downstairs to the main cage to cash out, or apparently you can walk across and up the stairs to like the high limit baccarat. It's kind of a little secret that I'm giving away to cash out. And I had sort of talked about how I was there one time, like almost on New Year's, and I had like 10 grand in my rack, and the crowd over there in Everett is not the same as the crowd that is at the Wynn in Las Vegas. It was, I was looking around and I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I've got like this rack of like $10,000 in chips and like a line of 100 people, and it's not necessarily the best crowd. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And then I went back up and they're like, no, that's it. You have to cash out downstairs. But if they haven't changed it, it doesn't look like they're going to change it if they are going to move. Daryl keeps mentioning moving across the street, right? Because they're supposedly building a new building across the street that they're going to move the poker room to.
Yeah, but I mean, that seems to be 3 years away at the least.
Right. I feel for you as a regular player there. Like I said, I live in between Encore and Chasers, and I go up to Chasers because I love the double board bomb pots. The only problem, as somebody has said in the live chat, is that they don't play a lot of straight hold'em up there in New Hampshire anymore. I mean, it's really hard to even get a 2-5 game going. They have a lot of PLO, if you like PLO, and sometimes like the mixed games and stuff like that. But I mean, you do have Twin River, you do have MGM, and I guess you have home games. But whenever you have a situation in a market like this where there's just one operator, yeah, man, they can just get away with kind of like not treating the customers as well as they could. And what is our respite is to try to be as nice about it as possible and sort of bring it out into the open. I think the drinks thing was a very easy thing to revert back. I don't know about this particular setup. Maybe they can change the intercoms. Maybe they can put up glass doors or something, some sort of soundproofing.
Bart, do you think that with the Maverick Gaming and Bally's partnership and talk of expanding the Twin River Bally's room, do you think that's going to change the landscape at all?
I don't even know. So is there talk that they're going to expand that?
Yeah, I mean, Eric Persson was on Nick Vertucci's show speaking about the partnership and how they're going to expand Bally's poker room. They're thinking about bringing some meetup games with some big names to to Rhode Island, excuse me, and bringing live streaming there.
Well, but the thing is that, right, you have two populations like in suburban Boston, right? You have sort of north and south, right? It's kind of hard for somebody like me to go as a regular thing and travel down to Providence when I live in between Encore and Chasers on the North Shore. I mean, almost as hard. I mean, I could drive to Springfield, right? For people on the South Shore, yeah, but it's still like kind of geographically challenging. It's not like it's close. You know what I mean? Like, would you?
Yeah, I live in the city, so I get it.
I mean, would you drive like each, an hour to play your regular poker game? Although I did that.
I mean, I don't think so.
Although I did that when I lived in LA, even though I only lived 15 miles away from Commerce. At least one way it was an hour. So, yeah, man, I just, I feel for people that live in the city. And like I said, there are some other choices around, but they're sort of geographically challenging. I just wish they could really fix. Like I said, I haven't come across the whole noise thing that you were talking about, but I just really, it wouldn't seem like it would be that big of a deal to fix the whole cash out cage type issue where you could cash out up there and you could buy larger chips up there. I've never seen a poker room of this size operate like this to the point, like I said, I told you last time, Daryl, I asked the guy, I'm like, is this an Encore property? That's what I asked them.
Doesn't feel like it.
Like last summer, but it is what it is.
I will say that there are some awesome floor people who are there day to day, especially Martin. I'm not sure if you've ever had a chance to interact or meet him or talk to him, but he's very knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he'll be running a poker room one day if he wants to. But there's some really good people doing some really good work on the floor there, and they're really good dealers. So I guess this really just comes from a level above.
Right.
And people really not, I guess, understanding how to operate a premium poker room.
And again, the difference, as I talked to the last guy that was running the room before he went and opened Resorts World, is apparently, again, like for some reason, I'm sorry, his name escapes me. He was in a position in sort of a corporate structure where he had influence, and now maybe these people that run the poker room don't. And, they can run the room as best as they can, and it's not their fault, and they can try to sort of pass along the feelings and the feedback of the players. But if they have no real influence, then the only influence is really not going there and giving them your business. But, poker is sort of an individualistic type of thing, and it's really hard to get any groups of poker players to do anything in unison, right?
Live poker is very healthy and the games are good. So it's very tough.
It's tough.
We just got to keep making our voice heard. So we appreciate you giving us this.
Yeah, no problem. And maybe you can give us an update like in another 6 months or something like that. All right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.